Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us today for today's webinar on online communications for the travel trade, Dragon Trail Interactive's March 2020 webinar. My name is Sienna Perlis-Cook from Dragon Trail Interactive. As you may know, we had originally planned on using this webinar to look at strategy for market recovery and market sentiment in China during this time, but in light of the ITB Berlin cancellation first, followed by the subsequent cancellation and postponement of many major travel trade events all around the world, we thought it was very important instead to look at how we as an industry can stay connected and work together to weather this crisis using online tools. So we shifted the focus of the webinar to focus on that. However, before we get started, I wanted to say that if you are looking for information on Chinese trade and consumer sentiment, we have a number of reports available on our website, including our own research, which we just published today. And we will also continue to be putting out more information on best case marketing and Chinese tourist sentiment on our website in the coming days and weeks. So there are still a lot of resources that you can find on those topics. So in today's webinar, we'll first be talking about surviving the crisis. This is a very crucial period that we're all facing, and a number of steps that we think are very important for the travel industry to take and be thinking about to make sure that we come out the other end. Then we'll talk about taking travel exhibitions and putting them online. So as I mentioned before, and I think we all know, travel trade events on every continent over the coming months have been canceled and postponed, but there are some very useful digital tools that we can use to help keep us connected and moving forward during that time instead. So we'll be talking about those. We'll also then move on to talking about travel industry training. So that would be specifically for the Chinese outbound travel market and the kind of work that you can be doing now to make sure that we are all in the best position we possibly can be for when the recovery inevitably does come. At the end of the webinar, we'll have time for Q&A. At that point, if you want to ask questions about the digital tools that we have talked about, then you can ask them. But if you have any other questions about kind of crisis marketing at this point or consumer trends in China, please feel free to ask about anything at that point. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar using the Q&A button, which you should see on your Zoom control panel. Please do ask us questions using the Q&A button as opposed to in the chat. And this is because questions in the chat can easily be lost, whereas if you ask them using the Q&A button, it ensures that we can see them and make sure that we answer all of them at the end of the webinar. I'd also like to let you all know now that we will be sending out the slides from today's webinar as well as a link to a recording of the webinar to all of you tomorrow, so you'll have those resources on hand. Presenting today's webinar will be Roy Graf, our Managing Director for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Roy has more than 20 years of experience working in Chinese tourism and extensive experience working with B2B and the Chinese travel trade. He was working in Chinese tourism during the SARS crisis and has also spoken at international events about crisis communications for the Chinese outbound tourism market. For those of you who may not have attended any Dragon Trail Interactive webinars in the past, Dragon Trail Interactive is a digital marketing company that is focused exclusively on outbound tourism from China. So we are very specialized in that area and have a lot of deep knowledge about the Chinese outbound tourism market. That said, we also have a lot of our own digital solutions for working with the travel trade that can be applied not just to working with the Chinese travel trade, but on a more international level. And that's one of the things that we'll be covering today. Dragon Trail is headquartered in China, but we also have international offices in London as well as in the US. We work with more than 80 clients on 6 continents, and this includes many different industry verticals in tourism, such as destinations, attractions, cruise lines, airlines, car rental companies, and more. So at this point, I'll turn over to Roy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sienna, and good afternoon for those in Europe and good morning for those joining us from North America. As Sienna mentioned, I'm the Managing Director for our EMEA region, and we're both based in London. At the moment, our company in China has, with our 3 offices and over 100 staff, have all been working from home for the last month and a half. Gradually, we'll be returning to the office in the next week. And very much we'll see how what happens in China, and making sure that they really do have the situation under control. From what we see right now and the reports we get, the lockdown measures that they've implemented there have worked, and that is a good sign and a good signal for the fact that if countries implement strict lockdown measures and social isolation early on, then they can mitigate the worst of the crisis and make sure that the hospitals and the health system is able to deal with the people that need hospitalization and need urgent care. Now, for the travel industry, this crisis is unprecedented. It's worse than SARS and worse than 9/11. It's something that is started off being mainly focused on the tourism crisis affecting China, but it's very much evident now that this is a global crisis that affects every single country and the international tourism industry especially, but of course, all other sectors are going to be affected. Now, it's important to emphasize that to survive this and to develop resilience and also be ready to deal with the next crisis that might come along, we need to find ways to work together, to stand together, united, and use digital tools and platforms to help us cooperate, coordinate efforts, share information, and learn from each other. This is very much what Dragon Trail has been doing now since the crisis started in China, and what we want to also extend to the rest of the travel industry around the world. From our experience there and using the tools and platforms that we have developed for digital marketing that have proved themselves to be extremely practical and helpful when communicating online and engaging, connecting suppliers and buyers across China. So this notwithstanding, it's really important that as an industry, we work within our trade associations and public bodies, tourism boards, and different associations to lobby government to help with the kind of recovery effort and with supporting businesses that are suffering through the crisis. And that applies, of course, in China and applies also in every other country. So it's something that I urge all of you to do in your own markets, is to lobby the government, to sign petitions, to speak with members of parliament, to make sure that there is help extended to the travel industry and hospitality sector. We also can use a lot of the reach that we have to engage with the travel trade to build awareness of what are the efforts that destinations are doing, and make sure that the travel agents in China are aware of the different efforts and different ways that that countries around the world are dealing with the fallout, and also are helping consumers, travelers, and helping also the suppliers and the travel agencies. So one of the things that we really are encouraging is to use this time to build up your brand and brand differentiation when engaging with the travel trade in China, and also develop products that will be ready to deploy and to launch once the recovery is underway. It will be necessary to change the way we have been working. I think that even after we get this under control, from all the studies that have so far been done, the virus itself is not going to go away until there are effective vaccines in place. And even as social isolation might help, we'll have to be a lot more careful with the way we engage in massive gatherings and exhibitions and conferences and international travel. So there's going to be a long-term effect beyond the initial crisis. And one of the things that I think are going to be important is to, for example, find ways to reduce business travel and business international events and replace them or have a backup with online meeting places, online exhibitions and trade shows, and other digital platforms that allow you to show what you're offering, show what you're selling, and also basically have practical and effective meetings online. So starting with exhibitions and roadshows, what are the kind of ways that we'll be able to move that online or use them as a backup when any kind of event experiences partial closure or full closure and needs to go online? This is something that technology has been trying to solve for a long time. And I think that this crisis is showing that we have no other way but to solve it right now. Our company being primarily and only a digital specialist has been able to develop the right platforms to do that already for quite a few years, because in China, it just makes total sense to use digital platforms and use the internet as a delivery mechanism, because just China is so big and so fragmented. But especially now in the wake of this crisis, we've seen that the travel agents are fully committed to using online platforms, and especially using platforms like WeChat to access information from suppliers, from destinations, and commit to having appointments and meetings and discussing business online. So let me show you what I mean. We've already seen in the first few months of this year that wholesale, all travel shows, exhibitions and conferences across China are being canceled or delayed for later in the year. And the same is true for international events. ITB was canceled very last minute, and following on that, also IBTM, ILTM, and ATM have all been canceled or delayed, as well as many other events around the world. Now, we do see this continuing. There's no sign that we can expect when events will start happening on the ground, physical events. But that doesn't mean that we should just abandon our contacts and our network. It's important to ensure there is continuity. And for that, the online platforms that I'm going to discuss with you are going to be a very good solution. So we see three different business models when it comes to online meetings. First, a fully online trade show, which can replace an exhibition. For one of the exhibitions that canceled in 2020, can be launched totally as a new online trade show with all the parts of the exhibition in terms of exhibition stands and one-to-one meetings, presentations to multiple people. All of that can take place online. Also, single destinations or chains or trade associations can basically work within their own stakeholder group to conduct a B2B roadshow that will be totally online and invite the buyers from across China. And of course, this can also be replicated around the world, but at the moment we're focusing on China, to engage with the suppliers and with destinations purely online. And finally, a hybrid model where some of the offline trade shows that might go ahead later in the year would still see a proportion of people not able to attend, because it's possible that some markets will still be closed off, will still have restrictions on travel while others are open. And therefore, while you have the exhibition taking place, you can have part of the buyers and exhibitors joining in through digital platforms and connecting to the rest of the people on the trade show floor through handheld devices and fixed monitors that are going to be on the show floor. So it's possible to have that as a backup in case a particular segment of the audience is unable to attend in person. With an online only trade show, there's no venue hire or stand setup costs. You only have the hosting costs, which are going to be much lower. It's basically very low risk when it comes to dealing with any unforeseen restrictions on travel or cancellations. And the platform is on not only through the duration of the event itself, but it can be on all the time, and people can work across multiple time zones and around their own timing, making it a lot more convenient. If you are using the online trade show as an extension to an offline show, then you can make sure that the offline events don't lose any key buyers or sellers that couldn't attend physically, which is also adding value to those that are showing up. It means that they're not missing out on the people that couldn't attend. There's a backup plan that can be there to basically pull out in case anything happens last minute, but also it can extend the lifetime, the lifespan of the show indefinitely, or at least until the next show, by having all this information online and having the platform there for buyers and sellers to interact and engage with each other online. With a trade show, a lot of the interaction and the user interface is quite familiar and intuitive. The platform can be used by any kind of travel supplier and travel provider, including destinations, tour operators, hotels, retail, tourism retailers, airlines, attractions, rail, car company, etc. They can present their products, they can build their contact database, conduct matchmaking, and business meetings, and collect data on the users and on the visitors. It can be basically designed as a fully kind of interactive show floor with individual stands within destinations or standalone. The sellers can display all their products, including interactive product presentations. They can basically conduct these presentations to multiple people, but also play it back on on demand, and have a matchmaking scheduling platform to schedule one-to-one meetings. So it's a very easy to use platform. You can conduct business with the travel trade anywhere in the world, and it can support multiple platforms, including PC, mobile, and importantly for China, WeChat. The reach is obviously huge because it's online and it's very cost effective. It's extremely scalable, and specifically for China, using our own travel trade database, you can reach up to 52,000 and more verified travel agents and have guaranteed hosted buyers included in that package. We also collect extensive data on the users. So we have the database, as I mentioned, of 52,000 travel trade contacts, and whoever visits your exhibition stand, whoever you engage with, you can automatically collect all the data on them, their company, their position, their location, and their interests and specialities. The trade show itself is quite familiar to the trade. It can be zoomed in and people can select and browse between different suppliers and sellers. It would work on different platforms, and it allows for people to interact with the sellers through a chat interface that would include text, voice, and video calls. It's possible to share share files, to download PDFs, and also communicate using machine translation of English to Chinese and Chinese to English. Specifically for China, on the platforms that work in China, it's fully localized, so it's integrated into a WeChat mini program, and we provide a hosted buyer program in China to ensure that the 250 top quality buyers are available to do matchmaking with you. And our database is available to basically promote your attendance of the event to using email, WeChat, and SMS. In the online trade show, we have the exhibition hall, and an exhibitor typically would get a full business page, the ability to have their own online matchmaking account to connect with buyers, and the opportunity to present their product through live or pre-recorded webinars, which will include an interactive Q&A with the attendees. And following that, a full provision of the database with all the trade contacts. Now, the exhibitor exhibitor page, which is shown here in Chinese, includes all the necessary information for you as a seller. It can have multiple photos and videos. It will have the ability to play back presentations directly from the page. And visitors can check in and leave a message and leave all their, basically, their virtual business card with information about them for later on contact. It would have a full profile of the exhibitor and other sales resources like PDFs and videos that people can download. The matchmaking system is very versatile, and it works in two directions, in both directions. As an exhibitor, you are able to check a list of all the buyers and browse them, filter what you need, basically what you're looking for, and then request specific time slots with multiple options to request a meeting with the buyer. This chat history and all the buyer contact data is recorded and saved for you. And machine translation is available to be able to help communicate even if you don't speak the same language. On the buyer side, the buyers can browse all the listings of the exhibitors, request matchmaking from the side, and also basically make sure that they can book a time that is convenient to both parties in the exchange. The platform also allows for multimedia product presentations and interactive interactions. So there are multiple live presentations scheduled by the exhibitors, and the buyers can browse through them and join in to them one at a time. And if they miss something, they can always play it back later. They are able to ask questions interactively within the session. And again, all that gets recorded and provided to the exhibitor later on. So that is something that is available from the landing page of the exhibition, but also every exhibitor will have that within their own page if they are presenting a webinar. Now, as the platform is always on, there will be specific active campaign periods where we know the agents are most interested to collect information and sign deals, and we'll actively promote it to them. But the platform will stay on the whole year. So even at other times, you'll be able to direct the agents and the buyers to the platform to get all the information there and interact with you through the platform, so everything gets recorded. In the international market, this online trade show that has worked quite well in China so far is very scalable and adaptable to work internationally. So it doesn't have to be a Chinese platform. It can work in other languages. It works on mobile and PC platforms around the world. And it basically provides a web-based online chat tool for appointments, web-based multimedia webinar tools, and you can invite hosted buyers from any country and any sector. The system itself is adaptable to work in other industries, not just in tourism. When it comes to the China market, some of the unique features that were localized for China include the WeChat mini program that is especially convenient for Chinese buyers, and a WeChat-based online chat tool for appointments and for business meetings, as well as a WeChat-based multimedia webinar tool to provide direct presentations through WeChat. In China, we also have, as I mentioned before, our database of 52,000 China travel trade visitors, which we can basically help invite, as well as guaranteed Chinese hosted buyers. Now, our hosted buyers in China are mostly focused on FIT and customized travel, as well as luxury, MICE, and key verticals, such as adventure travel, senior travel, etc. They're drawn from 1, 2, and 3 tier cities, and we can filter and target them by location, business type of product that they're interested in, and the destination that they're interested in. You may recognize some of the names here, but these are some of the biggest travel agencies, both OTA and traditional agencies in China, with multiple outlets and offices around China. Our database has grown considerably only in the last 6 weeks, from 40,000 to 52,000, but it's been already quite sizable even before that. But this period of travel agents being at home, not having anything to sell, was really good for presentations and training, and so many more travel agents signed up to our trade platform because they really wanted to have additional information and stay connected. We have multiple platforms to discuss and basically and communicate with the agencies, including our own email database and SMS database, as well as a WeChat account for trade media and trade news, and various WeChat groups of discussions that include 2,000 verified trade contacts. So the way we communicate with the database includes sending them information through our WeChat accounts, sharing it with WeChat moments, and also are able to promote through the online trade show TNTM, which I will discuss a little bit next. We also have our press releases that we put in the in other travel trade media in China. So we can promote your products and services through multiple channels. As a case study, I would like to show you the next travel market, TNTM. This is an online trade show, purely online, that Dragon Trail launched at the end of last year. It's a showcase of this platform and what it can do. We already have 50 exhibitors that have their exhibition stand on the platform with over 52,000 page views in the last few months, and over 30,000 exhibitor interactions overall, with all of these, some of these brands that you see on the screen have individually attended. In addition, it can also, we also have a case study of a private branded roadshow, which was done by the South African Tourism Office. The roadshow invited 10 suppliers to interact and basically have one-to-one business meetings with hosted buyers, with over 200 hosted buyers. And the feedback from that experience was very positive. Because again, there's no rush. People can speak for longer than they could at the regular trade show. And all the information is being kept. People can basically go back and ask for more information if they need that. So overall, it's been proving to be a very practical and helpful system. Beyond the business exchange and business development aspects of an online trade show, as I've shown you, there is also the aspect of training. Again, this has been extremely important in the last few months. And according to a recent report by Travel Daily, that sampled travel industry contacts on what they think the effect of the coronavirus will be on the Chinese travel industry this year. Basically, people are saying that it will lead to a speeding up of the industry and a reorganization. It will encourage more professional creativity, speed up product transformation, encourage further digitalization of the tourism industry, and to a lesser degree also increase direct sales. So all of this is good news for destinations and suppliers that are looking for new ways and creative ways to market themselves to the travel industry in China. The crisis with the coronavirus led to a online training boom. We have our own platform for training that we use to put different destinations and brands online and provide full modular training to travel agents in China. We do that through WeChat, but what we've seen is that we're typically, before the coronavirus crisis, we've had maybe between 200 and 300 agents up to 800 agents on a training session. It's now many thousands of agents that are doing the training, and it's basically at a totally different scale. We have accelerated cooperation with some of the biggest travel agencies in China, including Ctrip, Kaisa, Unique, and others. So they have their own training systems and platforms in place, and we basically use digital distribution and connectivity to pass on all those training modules to their own systems to increase the number of agents that are getting the training. Over the last 6 weeks, our database of travel agents that are signed up to the training platform has risen from 40,000 to 52,000. The courses in the past month have been attended by more than 15,000 people. And many of the clients, including national tourism boards, have ramped up their training push and promotion in the last few weeks. CTA, the China Travel Academy, is our WeChat-based training module delivered through a mini program, and it has multiple modules. It's basically provides for people to study by accessing text, imagery, and video, and then answering questions to complete the testing and receive accreditation and certification. Whereas CTA Live is a WeChat-based webinar platform where you can present a presentation, slideshow, with a narration, both live presentation and pre-recorded, followed by an interactive live Q&A. All of that gets recorded and can then be played back from the client's WeChat account at any time. CTA is more of a long-term investment to basically help your travel agents in China know how to sell the product and become expert at selling it. The courses can be broken into different modules, and you can have both beginners and advanced modules, or on different types of products or different themes. All of that can be quite, basically, it can be as complex as you want it, and it applies for some agents that are very specialized and would want to learn more about the product. Agents can study at their own time, at their own pace, from anywhere, which makes it extremely convenient, especially if they're busy in the office, because they can access it from their mobile, on the train or on the bus or at home. Typically, incentives are provided, both in terms of like printed out certification or PDF certification, as well as small prizes and gifts to encourage them to finish the full course. CTA Live has an immediate reach, so that is something that can be set up and run with within a week or two if you have all the content ready. And we basically, on your behalf, would send a promotion to an invitation to travel agents to register and attend the event. The functions for the presenter include sharing slides, sharing video, and answering questions. And all the webinars are recorded, so they're available later for additional playback by agents that weren't able to attend the live show. The data that gets collected is provided to you, and that gets built up over time. So obviously, as more agents play back the presentation, the webinar, the database increases. One of the clients that have used it in March is Visit Britain, with their webinar having 800 live attendees and a total of 1,600 users overall, basically listening to it. And over 70 questions in the Q&A session shows that agents are really interested and are quite inquisitive and want this interaction. So overall, that can be a very effective tool. One of the use cases of the online platform proved to be very effective in the last month because of the virus crisis. Dragon Trail decided to launch an online tourism recovery action summit and invite the travel industry in China to take part. We invited some of the top officials and senior leaders of the travel industry to provide pre-recorded presentations and panel discussions to discuss the crisis, the recovery from it, and building resilience following on from the crisis. This was extremely popular, and it received more than 4,700 page views, and more than 1,800 unique viewers signed up to the most popular session. This was also available for playback afterwards, so it continues to be viewed by the travel industry in China. So I hope that in this presentation, you were able to see some of our solutions that can basically provide additional support and maybe a different way of looking at how to do marketing through the travel trade in China in the basically recovery phase and after that. Once we recover from the current crisis, we know that there will be more crises to come. We know that it's important to build resilience into the system. And that is what we hope we can provide you with these tools. So in order to learn more, find out more, please visit our website, dragontrail.com. If you want to discuss how these solutions can help you and your destination and your product, please feel free to email us. Our email is emea@dragontrail.com. You are going to receive, as Sienna said in the beginning, this webinar as a presentation, and you'll be able to also play it back. You'll get all this information directly to your email following this. But if you want to find out more, we have a blog full of insights and useful information, as well as the book China, the Future of Travel, which provides a primer for the Chinese tourism industry and is available free to download from the website chinafutureoftravel.com. So at this point, I would like to open the floor to questions using the Q&A button, and we'll try and answer as many questions as we can in the time available.